Line's good.
Never on.
Whoa.
Hard. Hardly.
Come on, Brent.
Line's good.
Got real close.
The hair high, right?
Try and hit 2/3.
Have they saved it for her? Yes, they have.
Ooh, welcome to Game of Stones, everybody. I am Sean Graham, Scott, alongside from a mysterious location. Hello, Scott.
Sean, mysterious location indeed. I'm calling from inside a fishbowl. If I sound funny, it's because of that. But it was too exciting to not talk today. We have a 4 in a row Scotties champion in Kerri Eirnarson, and I just couldn't not talk to you about it.
Yeah, Kerri Eirnarson goes back to back. 4 straight Canadian championships. And also, I think underappreciated, Shannon Burchard is now 5 for 5 at the national championship. That's pretty doggone impressive, Scott.
That's really impressive. My light just went off in my fishbowl. Anyway, 5 for 5. Sean, I don't mean to bring up our picks, but I did pick them to win.
Yes.
You just got to bet on Shannon Burchard until she doesn't win, which I don't know if that will ever happen.
Well, she's going to at least have one more chance to potentially not win, because they're going back next year, barring some unforeseen incident. I think the weirdest part of this, too, though, Scott, is that as of today, on February 27th, she's won 5 Scotties. She's played in 2 world championships.
That's right. So it'll be another opportunity to get in that world championship and try to win one this time. Kerri Eirnarson, lots of success at home, but hasn't climbed to the top of that world podium just yet.
No, and I think certainly when we think of that, the bubble was just so weird. They've spent so much time in there collectively. And then a bronze medal last year, it's nothing really to sneeze at, especially in that Worlds format where it's just a semifinal. You don't have the safety valve that the page provides. So we'll see if they can upgrade that on their trip to Sweden. Kerri said she's never been to Sweden before after the game, talking to Brian last night. It'll be first chance to head over to Sweden. But you've been to Sweden, right, Scott?
I have been to Sweden, Sean. Beautiful. Expensive. Tell her to bring a lot of money, because they're going to need it.
Yeah. So let's talk about how they got there. Let's talk about that final last night against Jennifer Jones. The score belies a little bit how close that game was. It's a 10-4 final, but that's because Kerri Eirnarson scores 5 in the 9th and to bust it wide open. I think a slightly unfortunate hot mic moment where they left Jennifer Jones's mic on. Kerri Eirnarson was sitting 3 or 4, whatever it was, and you hear Jennifer Jones ask the official, do we have to play it? And it's an obvious question that you're going to ask. It's not going to come back. And you just almost prefer that they didn't have to ask the question.
Right.
Just that they score 5 is because Jennifer Jones in that 9th end down 5-4 really goes for it. She really goes hard for a steal or a force, whichever one. Gets very aggressive. Doesn't really work out for obviously, and misses her last shot. Not by much. She threw the weight she wanted. She had the ice she wanted. It just didn't curl. It was a tap back that if it curls another couple inches, it's probably really good. And maybe they have a chance to steal there. But instead, it's a wide open hit for Kerri Eirnarson for the 5. And that was that. I think, though, the more interesting end to me, Scott, was the 8th end where Jennifer Jones is down 2. And it's on her first one. She's sitting 1 after a crazy shot. Val Sweeting tries a run back on a corner guard to double off a stone, basically right behind it. Somehow thins it into the 4-foot. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that. Had you seen something like that, Scott, where a run back on a stone that's about 9 o'clock hits it so thin that it moves it 3 feet into the 4-foot?
Yeah, not at this level, Sean. I think we've all seen that at the club. Where somebody tries to do something, gets a totally different result than they were trying, and it's very frustrating. I can't imagine how frustrating it is at this level to have that happen. It's one of those you just shake your head and say, hope that balances out over the course of the game. In the end, it didn't, though. So Jones was trying to get her 2 set up there in the 8th and just wasn't able to do it, right?
It actually really worked out well that Val did that. It comes behind a Team Canada stone at the top of the forefoot and kind of handcuff Jennifer Jones a little bit for the rest of that end. And then it's her first one, and they're looking at some taps, some stuff in front. There's 3 guards in front, and then they eventually decide on a wide out turn draw. And because Glenn Howard was their skip, of course it picked, and she missed it. But it was actually a legitimate pick. There was a scratch in the ice, which is unfortunate, and it didn't really give her a chance. Kerri throws something else up. There's no draw anymore, and there's really nothing that Jen can do. She tries a tap back that was very dangerous, almost ended up giving a steal. And at that point, down 1 going to the 9th end, Kerri Eirnarson has the hammer. Mathematically, sure, you get the force, but at that point, it felt a little to me that the game's probably over because Kerri Eirnarson is just that good at defense. But I don't know, Scott, did you have any sense there that maybe Jennifer Jones could somehow pull this out? She is Jennifer Jones, after all.
Yeah, of course. And they had gotten a steal, I think, in the Friday night game against, they had a steal of 4 in the second end against Eirnarson. Now, obviously, she's not going to play as fast and loose as she would in that seeding pool game where, it doesn't really matter if you lose. But there was a chance. We saw earlier in the semifinal against Krista McCarville, Kerri Eirnarson was not really on her game. Quite a few sort of heavy draws or tap back attempts that were just a bit too heavy. So there was always a chance for sure. And like you say, with Jennifer Jones, she's always going to believe she's got a chance to do it. With the tick rule in place, it makes it not quite as much of a done deal. She just went for it. And like you said, that last shot of hers was close, but she missed it the wrong way, I'd say. Heavy and blocked into the open, giving an open hit for 5.
And obviously that was enough, and for Kerri Eirnarson makes the easy hit. Crowd knew it as well. They had the nice slow clap as the rock was coming down. Yeah. And Kerri Eirnarson is your 4-time defending Scotties Tournament of Hearts champion. If you look at some of the numbers of this game, it was really interesting that first half that it's force in those first 4 ends. And then it's the steal of 2 in the 5th that really turns the tide. You talk about a team that starts without the hammer. They often say if we can flip the hammer in the first half of the game, we're doing well. And that steal of 2 in the 5th and then getting the 4 right back in the 6th. Really, it's not what you expect from Jennifer Jones she'll give up steals here and there because she plays as aggressively as she does, but you don't expect her to go through a game and not be able to convert any hammers. It's very un-Jennifer Jones-like. A credit to Kerri Eirnarson for sure, but the fact that they couldn't crack a multiple, give up a steal of 2, the math, of course, doesn't work out there, and the percentage differences, front ends are pretty much a push through the game. Carly Burgess played well, throw 79%, so just a little worse than Val Sweeting at 86%, 5 points over the course of the game in total. But it's Jennifer Jones at 69% to Kerri Eirnarson's 89%. And I think part of that was degree of difficulty that Jennifer, in some of the cases, was throwing much more difficult shots. And, of course, had that unfortunate legitimate pick, which gives her a 0 and hurts the overall score as well. So just an un-Jennifer Jones-like evening in a big game, unfortunately for her.
You're right, Sean. You wouldn't expect her to not convert those hammers. Looking at the stats for the overall week, Team Manitoba, they converted only 33% of their hammers. But what kept them in things was the stolen points. They led the field with 35% stolen ends for. So without the hammer in 35% of her ends, she's stealing points. And that was sort of maybe a bit more of the smoke and mirrors show for Jennifer Jones this week. But Kerri Eirnarson, full credit, she led the field in hammer percentage this week. The only team over 50. They minimized the stolen points against, maximized the single points against, and that's just how you win curling games.
Yeah. You score more than the other team, you're going to win a lot of games.
Exactly.
It's the basic analytics of it. Not to get too in depth into the analytics. It's more points tends to be good.
Usually good.
Yes.
Yeah.
So congratulations to Kerri Eirnarson. We will try our best to put that into some sort of context in the summer, in a summer episode. We talked about doing this in the preview, that if they were to win, we will do this. We'll go back and try to put it into context with the other runs of sorts. Obviously, the only other 4 straight is Colleen Jones in the early aughts, but you do have 3 in a row for Jennifer Jones in the late aughts. You do have the Vera Pezzer 3 in a row, and then I don't know if the Kelly Scott 2 in a row counts within this realm. You have the Schmerler run, which of course includes the Olympic Games that we're going to have to consider, or somebody like Heather Houston winning back-to-back. I think we'll try to put it all into some sort of historic context of what does this mean for Kerri Eirnarson within the larger scope of Canadian women's curling, and try to assess this era against those other eras where you had dynastic teams.
Yeah, not easy to do, especially given the professionalization of the game and sort of the competition level now compared to 30 or 40 years ago. But we'll have to dig into it for sure.
And it'll be a lot of fun to do that, but we have time to look into that. So a silver medal, of course, for Jennifer Jones. She is now, I believe, 6-4 in Scotties finals, and that's pretty good to get to 10.
Yeah,
I will say.
Yeah.
There's no real complaints there. And I think when you look at the way the team performed around her, really good sign for them. 3rd time there for Mackenzie Zacharias, Carly Burgess, the rest of the team, and to get to that final, to get that experience of losing. Obviously, they would have rather won the game, but losing can be beneficial in your long-term development. There are people who've talked about this, that if you win one early, you start potentially to think, oh, this is easy. And for some people, if you lose, it just increases the drive. And for these players, from what I can gather, that might be hard to do, that their compete level, their drive level, their commitment to it is already very high. So I don't know if it's possible for them to increase that at all. But if it is, people do subscribe to that. And certainly in sports like the NBA, people say that all the time, that you got to get there and lose before you can win it. And the fact that they played as well as they did bodes well, I think, for their future.
Absolutely. The level of play was excellent all week. The amount that they're learning from Jennifer Jones is great. The body language of the team looked good. They were all supporting each other. And I don't know if I've heard Jennifer sort of talking that much in the last couple of years, as the team sort of knows each other, right? Maybe you don't have to speak as much, but no, I think it was great. An excellent sign for the team. They're learning a lot, and they're going to be here for years and years to come.
Absolutely. So congratulations to them on a solid week. The bronze medalist is Northern Ontario, Krista McCarville, consecutive podium appearances for them. Obviously not what they wanted, especially after winning on Friday night to get into that 1-2 game. They lose to Jennifer Jones in that, then lose to Kerri Eirnarson in the semifinal. It was 7-5 in the semifinal. Got up to an okay start. They got forced in the first end, and then the steal, though, in the second end. And then couldn't really generate much through the rest of that game. And so disappointing for Krista McCarville. She said after the game that I think the biggest difference for them between the week and the playoffs was they just lost a bit of their draw weight and being able to control the draws. So that put them in a tough position, obviously, if you're not getting the draws in the right spot. So a disappointing week. She did say in that post-game interview that we're going to win it. We just don't know when. We are going to win it. So it was nice to see that level of confidence, but certainly in the moment, a disappointing result after what was a very strong week for them.
For sure. They were sort of like under the radar a bit. We talked about them being on TV a lot at the beginning of the week, and then not really at the end when they sort of had their quote-unquote easier games. Nothing that easy in Pool B. But, they were just pretty solid all week. and you won't find them sort of at the top of the percentages for any position, but I guess maybe Sarah Potts got a second team All-Star. But they're just consistent and made the shots when they had to. What seemed to be their sort of weakest spot throughout the end of the week was Kendra Lilly, not playing quite as well in that semifinal as we're accustomed to seeing her play, as well as in that Page 1-2 game. So, she was the low one on the team for both of those games. I don't know. I think Krista's right. They do have the talent to win it. I pointed at Kendra Lilly being the weaker player this weekend. I don't think that's fair to call her the weak link on the team. She's a great thrower, makes a ton of shots. It's just that sometimes, like you say, her playing well sets Krista up to play well. And if she's a little not as sharp as she can be, it hurts the skipper.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that I think might be the biggest difference between if you're someone who goes and plays at the rec level like we are and the professional level, to the skill it takes to win Scotties or a Briar. At the rec level, you can see teams, and I'm sure everybody in their leagues probably has teams like this, that it has three relative beginners or three people who aren't the strongest players, but the skip is really good and they all play together because they're friends. And they win half to more than half of their games because the skip is that good. At this level, you do need everybody playing well to win. Again, it's not that Kendra Lilly necessarily played bad. I mean, Ashley Sippola's numbers weren't great in that 1-2 game either. So if through the lineup getting to the skip you're being outplayed or you have a minus, that makes the skip shots that much harder, and it's harder for a skip to bail when you're at that level than what you might see at your local rec player. Now, at the same time, we'll note that you often see the same skips at the finals and playing at the highest levels because there is a disproportionate impact of the skips. It just makes their job that much easier when everyone's playing well. And unfortunately for Northern Ontario, 2 games that they did not play their best, and admittedly they did not play their best over the weekend, and that gets them into that bronze medal position. But I picked them at the start of the week, and Scott, I might pick them again next year.
Yeah, no, I think they should feel really good about their week. They did what they had to do, and just couldn't quite put it together at the end. But they put themselves in the position to be able to win, right? And that's what you want to do. At the end of the week, you can say, listen, we put ourselves in the position to win. Didn't fall our way at the end. Same thing happened last year, right? Just didn't fall our way at the end. But no, I think Krista's right. They're going to win one.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And I agree with her on that they will win one. And the idea, too, in the olden days, used to be you play the round robin, best record wins. Now that wouldn't have won them the event this week. That would have gone to Kerri Eirnarson, even though everyone didn't play the same thing. But I think there is sometimes, and I sort of prompted by listening actually to Bob Ryan the other day, that we tend to dismiss sometimes the regular season, or in the Scotties or a Briar, the round robin, and they're consistently great in the round robin. They just haven't been able to get over the hump in the playoffs, but that shouldn't diminish how good they have been in those round robins.
Absolutely not. They've been the top of the field, and it's one of those things that they can do it together because they know each other so well, and they don't have to go out and play, right? So, there's advantages to playing a lot, getting points, getting reps. This team, they know each other, that they know how to do it together, and they can just roll it out and make the podium. So, great squad.
Yeah. I might make a comparison which might be unfair to Krista McCarville in terms of the expectation that a comparison like this might put on her. But if you remember Brad Gushu before he won one, that it was a sense of really good, always in contention, making playoffs, and it was a question of when is he going to get over the hump. And once he got over the hump, we've seen what has happened. Now, that's probably unfair to say, well, once Krista McCarville wins, she's going to win 3 and get into all these finals and go to the Olympics. That might be a little unfair to put that level of expectation. But I see a bit of a parallel there, that always in contention, going a lot, having really good results, and more at this question of when as opposed to if.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, and then the other breakout star, if you will, of the week is Christina Black and Nova Scotia. They end up in 4th place, making the playoffs. Don't call it an upset, beating Rachel Homan in the Friday elimination game 7-6, then losing to Krista McCarville in, I don't know. Could anyone have won that game? I'm sure somebody in the world could have, but they did have to go through the tiebreaker against Caitlin Laws in the morning, and then Rachel Homan, both tight games. They win 7-6 in both of them, and then they had to show up and play in the Friday Fun Fest, 3rd game of the day. I don't know what the odds were, Scott. I wouldn't have looked at it, but I would have put them at like plus 1,000 to win that game. Like it's so hard to do.
Yeah, no, that's tough. Three in a row on any day is tough, let alone games against teams like caliber of Caitlin Laws and Rachel Homan. And then you win both of those games in extra end steals. It's going to take a lot of energy and emotion. So real tough to bounce back on that. But, all full credit to them. They played those games really well, kept in it. Just, it was a lot. They're a lot of fun to watch.
Long games for them. That game against Homan's pretty interesting too, in that they're down by a point without the hammer in the 8th end, get the steal to tie it, give up 2 in the 9th, and then to force the extra they get it 2, which is not easy to do against Rachel Homan. There are some teams in the field that are not as strong at peeling, especially double peels. Team Homan is not one of those teams. You would expect that it'd be a very difficult task, even with all the 5-rock rule, to be able to generate a 2 against them, and they did it. So full credit to them, beating 2 very strong teams. And for the 2nd straight year, we had an East Coast team into the playoffs, which is really fun to see. And teams that aren't necessarily ranked highly, they don't play a lot on tour, or at least in the tour events in Central and Western Canada. But for 2 years in a row now, we've seen teams that can obviously compete at this level, and I think is a bit of something to think about for David Murdoch as he enters this new job and reconsiders what the high performance program is going to look like.
Yeah. This is sort of the beauty of this event, right? That there are teams that are put together by themselves, come to this event and make noise. Anyone can beat anyone, it seems, out there. Maybe not anyone, but we saw UConn take Rachel Homan to the last rock. So there's something to be said about this model of choosing your own team rather than what I think everybody thinks David Murdoch's going to do is put together teams, right? That's what worked for the Scottish program. So think about that and think about what this event is for. Is Christina Black going to be, the best team in this field every time? No, they're not. But this week they were, and this week is what matters, right? So that's the fun of the event. If we all knew who was going to win before it started, it wouldn't be that fun to watch, right?
Right. Yeah. And, as Chris Berman always said, that's why they play the game.
Exactly.
So elsewhere around the playoffs, Clancy Grandy is the other playoff team. She beats Laurie St. George in the tiebreaker on Friday morning. Really tough Friday morning for Laurie St. George. I watched a lot of that game. I watched the broadcast, and they cut in more than they typically do in that to that game. And Laurie really was struggling. She had to play really aggressively. Had some really tough shots. So a tough morning for them after what was a tough Thursday night too. Not being able to get the win to get right into the playoffs. They looked really disappointed on Thursday nights, and certainly a quick turnaround for them, but good showing for Clancy Grandy as a rookie team that they get in to the playoffs. So congratulations to them. That was kind of exciting to see, I thought.
I think it was exciting. Yeah, young team. their first sort of experience here at the Scotties and played pretty well. They're overall ups and downs. There were some games that weren't particularly close, but they were full measure for their effort, I thought. So could we see this team again at the Scotties? Maybe be the foil to Corinne Brown representing British Columbia. Could we see a sort of fight where they go every other year, back and forth? I don't know. Could be fun. It's nice to have two solid teams in a province.
Yeah, absolutely. It certainly makes the provincials more interesting, depending on how much they may or may not want to play on tour. Really, the only big event that takes place in BC in terms of points right now is the event in Penticton. But if they want to travel a little bit and get points, you could see them potentially in a wild card position, depending on obviously how provincial championships shake out. But yeah, they were a lot of fun, certainly this week as the host team. We mentioned Caitlin Laws getting into the tiebreaker as well. Certainly, I think a very good opening salvo at the Scotties for them. And we'll have to see, of course, when the full lineup is there with Selena Negevin next year. This year has been tough for them in that there's just been so many different lineup changes that they haven't had the season as the four together. And they talked about this a lot on the broadcast, that basically every month they've made lineup changes just given the life situations that they're all in with pregnancies and family, that we haven't had a chance to see the four of them together for a sustained period yet. And presumably that will not happen, obviously, now until next year, because the season at this point is really winding down. And at that, Jocelyn Peterman is pregnant. So we'll see what her status is, if she's going to play in those closing Grand Slams or not. But really, I think we know they're all really good players, and we know that when they have a chance to have a sustained period together, that they should be very, very good together.
No doubt. That's a tough situation for anyone, so expect higher things from them going forward.
Elsewhere, just some other notes. Alberta, Kayla Skrlik, really good performance for them. First time 4-4. Had the tough game Thursday night against Clancy Grandy, which was a must-win for them. But that was a really fun team. High scoring, playing aggressively, as we saw during the Alberta final, not scared of any shots. So I'm all in on them. I think they were one of the more fun teams there this week. And Megan Walter, another one, after a really tough start for her, she comes back, wins some games. She has a stage. I felt she just had a stage presence. This kind of like Kayla Skrlik a little bit. Just got the sense that she wasn't scared of anything, any shots. Like, oh yeah, you want me to throw this run back or this like 8-foot angle double? Sure, yeah, okay, I got it.
Okay, I didn't get that feeling, but
okay.
No, that's interesting. I think it developed, right? So by the end of the week, she was much more comfortable, it would seem, in the role. But they had a fun week, some good games.
Absolutely. And elsewhere, a disappointing week for Andrea Kelly. They go 3-5, not what they wanted, following up on last year. Stacey Curtis 2-6, but some close games for her. We talked on Thursday. Haley Burney with a win and pushed straight home into the 10th end. So I think overall solid week for them. Suzanne Burt's going to be disappointed at 2-6. Never really had her draw weight over the course of the week. Nunavut, a bit of what you expected, not getting a win. They didn't take anybody to the last rock, but there were a couple games that were close-ish through the middle, so probably what you would have expected there. Hope they had fun. And for Robin Silvernagle and that team, obviously they would have wanted to win more, but I think a really cool story for Robin Silvernagle, not only herself to have been there, but Kelly Schaefer playing. I think that's a really cool story. An Olympian for Scotland now, living here. And, we saw Robin's son during the Sandra Schmerler telethon. It's great that he's doing well. Looks like a really happy little guy there. So that was a wonderful story, just for her to be there, for her whole family to be there. So even though the record wasn't great, I think at least from my perspective as someone, as a viewer, the bigger story or the more important thing is that she could share that with her family.
Absolutely. Feel good story, for sure. And I noticed that a photo of the family made its way into the Vic essay.
It did, yes. Yes. And there was a Vic essay about Robin Silvernagle, too, during the telethon. That, if you haven't seen that, I would highly recommend it. So, overall, Scott, I think it was a fun week. The attendance wasn't great, but it looked better over the weekend. So, whereas a lot of the round-robin draws, we like this as fans where you can kind of move around the seats and sort of pick your spot and move throughout the game. It was harder to do that if you were there in person over the weekend, which is a good sign that the folks out there in Kamloops posted for the playoffs.
For sure. They posted, did well. I think we'll be seeing more events in Kamloops.
Yeah, the players seem to like it. And you do wonder, too, that they do have the Memorial Cup this year. So that is two pretty big events in not that far apart from each other. So you do wonder if that had any impact on, say, week-long passes as opposed to the weekend passes, particularly the championship weekend passes. But I don't know. They were there over the weekend. They were loud. It was fun. Good job, Kamloops. And from all accounts, it was a very well-run event.
Absolutely.
All right. So anything else there, Scott, from the 2023 Scotties that you want to touch on?
We talked a little bit about Boudrick calling a few more games. I think this is sort of the presage to coming up whenever Vic's ready to lay it down. We thought Joanne Courtney was really good from the broadcast side. The ice looked good all week. I didn't see any complaints about it on championship weekend, so nice that it held up. I guess we've got how many more days? 3 more days until the Brier starts?
Yeah, starts on Friday.
All right.
Here this week, yeah. The 2023 Tim Hortons Brier, the final Tim Hortons Brier.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We don't know what it'll be called after that, right?
No, maybe it'll be the Game of Stones Brier. I don't know. We'll see.
Well,
see if they accepted our bid.
Yeah, we'll have to negotiate, have our agent negotiate.
Yeah. I feel like we put in a very fair offer.
I agree.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see if Curling Canada agrees with that. So, yeah, the final Tim Hortons Brier will kick off. We will be back later in the week to talk all about it. So do subscribe wherever you get your podcast, likes, rates, comments, all that good stuff. Helps other people find the show, keeps us growing. You can follow us over on social media at Game of Stones Pod, Twitter, Instagram, on Facebook, Game of Stones Podcast. You can email us, gameofstonespodcast@gmail.com, or just head on over to gameofstonespod.com. Scott, since you are not in your typical recording location, and somewhat unexpectedly still in your undisclosed location, we will do the announcement for the Elsa Craig print when we do the Brier preview.
Yes.
Because you don't have access to everything right now. So we will do that later in the week. Our apologies for that, but we will do it. And do pay attention to that Brier preview, because there is a chance that we have another one that we will do a similar contest for.
Exactly. So keep paying attention, and we'll announce that. We'll announce that on whatever day we are able to record.
Yeah. If you ever make it home.
Home, yes. Fingers crossed. So on that note, I must go and see if I can find out any more information. But it was great talking to you.
Yeah, just 30 seconds real quick. We'll probably talk about this more later in the week. Congratulations to the Professor of Peel.
That's right.
English national champion.
Yeah, our friends from Rocks Across the Pond to let us know that Jonathan won with Team Wretchless. The English championship, he tried 9 times and finally got the title. So they will be going back to the European Bees in November, or going to them, not back, but going to them to try and get England into that A pool.
Really exciting for Jonathan. Congratulations to him and Team Wretchless. Scott, we had talked on the show, will there be a curling gambling scandal? if Jonathan is part of the picks bet next year, we could be the cause of it. So I don't think he will be able to participate next year.
No, unfortunately, but that's okay. You want to avoid those conflicts of interest. We'll figure out a better way to preview the Euros. Maybe not better, but a different way.
Yeah. So congratulations to them, and I'm sure they'll do a full discussion of it over on Rocks Across the Pond, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing Jonathan's story. So keep an eye out over there for that, and keep an eye out here in this space later in the week for our full Briar preview. But until we chat then, Scott, I hope you get home and get home safely.
Thanks, eh?
And to everyone else, we'll talk to you later in the week. But until then, keep those brooms on the ice and don't dump that intern.
Make the final.